hurry, hurry, hurry! Step right up for the time of your life! We've got games, we've got rides, we've got prizes like you've never seen! That's right, son, don't delay! We've got all kinds of surprises in here!
This video is brought to you by Patreon. Patreon. Is it live or is it Memorex? I mean, it's October, the spooky month. What else are we going to talk about on Sample Platter? Are You Afraid of the Dark is the quintessential children's horror program, beating even the Goosebumps books to market by nearly 2 years. There's tons to talk about when it comes to this franchise, and we'll have plenty of opportunities to do so. But for today, we're going to be talking about something that the show had that other mainstream properties like Goosebumps didn't. Are You Afraid of the Dark could kill kids. That feels so weird to say out loud, like I'm relishing in some Mortal Kombat blood and gore, but while Are You Afraid of the Dark was just as prone to goofy camp as any other horror franchise, and boy did it have a lot of camp, there was always the threat of death for these characters, a rarity among any children's programming. Sure, it didn't happen often, and there was a level of unreality that allowed for it. In this show, a group of kids, the Midnight Society, gather around the campfire to tell spooky stories, and it's in those stories, 2 levels of fiction deep, that a character might be killed or maimed or cursed with some extreme punishment for their misdeeds. I don't know if this 2 degrees of separation was a necessary element for the network execs, but for young viewers, it does kind of give the episodes a bit of padding, a crunch zone against the more extreme elements in the story. And I can't think of a better episode to test this theory than this one, in which one kid gets murdered by a demon and another kid decides to become a serial killer. The Tale of the Dark Music is the 11th episode of the show's first season, originally airing on October 24th, 1992. It was directed by series regular Ron Oliver, who also directed a great deal of the Goosebumps television show and the Animorphs TV show. You may recall my interview with him ages ago. The episode's credited writer is Chloe Brown, which is actually a pen name of series creator and executive producer DJ McHale. That's a very long story, but the bottom line was that the Canadian producer didn't want my name all over the show, even though it should have been. The Tale of the Dark Music is about a boy named Andy, who has just moved into the house that used to belong to his now-deceased great-uncle, a man who didn't work a day in his life and yet still had all the money he ever needed. As Andy, Christina, his little sister, and their mother settle into their new home, the young boy makes a discovery in the basement. If you play music, any kind of music, from a stereo or a radio, something is summoned in the attached root cellar, something evil and demonic. It takes a different form every time it's summoned, sometimes beckoning Andy to join it, sometimes trying to take Andy by force, only vanishing when the music is shut off.
Hi, Andy. Won't you come play with me? We can have lots of fun. Just come with me.
Andy is also dealing with Coda, a neighborhood bully set on making Andy's life a living hell.
Nice day for a ride, isn't it?
Realizing he now has the perfect weapon to get back at his bully, Andy tricks Coda into his basement, locks him in, and turns on some music. The monster emerges, and straight up kills and eats Coda. The monster then gives Andy a new bike, revealing that it was what gave his great uncle his success and money, and the demon is willing to give Andy whatever Andy wants, on one condition: feed me.
Feed his own sister to the thing, did he?
No, but he made sure that she didn't bother him anymore.
Okay, that line totally feels like something added to the script to appease the networks. Yeah, well, you might be able to unconvincingly hand-wave the idea that Andy becomes a serial killer, but Coda is still super dead. What does the threat of death add to Are You Afraid of the Dark? Certainly makes the show feel a little taboo. Death is such a rarity in all of children's media, that to see it so straightforwardly used against young characters can make it feel like you just gotten away with something, like you just watched a more grown-up show. Occasionally killing kids adds tension to even the episodes where the kids end up just fine. Having even just one episode where a child is killed by a monster means that can happen in any episode. The stakes are always that much higher than they were with something like Goosebumps. Death is, of course, the cornerstone of just about all horror fiction. Monsters and serial killers going after people tap into our primal fear of predators, of looking over our shoulder to make sure a tiger isn't about to pounce on us. Are you afraid of the dark? If you're a caveman, you're very afraid of the dark, because there are animals that see better in the dark than you do, and they will kill and eat you given the chance. Just because we now live in a world of houses and electric lights and espressos and cell phones doesn't mean we as a species have shaken that innate fear. It simply shifts the subject of that fear from lions and tigers and bears, oh my, to whatever else our imagination can fit into that space. In fact, this episode most directly refers to the show's leading question. In the Midnight Society segments, we have a subplot about one of the members, Frank, freaking out when he was left in the surrounding woods without a flashlight, revealing that he is, in fact, afraid of the dark. This idea of being afraid of the dark crops up a number of times during the story.
And he's afraid of the dark.
It's okay. I get scared in the dark sometimes too.
I'm not afraid of the dark.
There's a little boy in it who's afraid of the dark. Well, everyone knows that there's nothing in the dark that can hurt you. Most of the time.
What's the matter, Andy? Afraid of the dark?
No, I'm not afraid of the dark.
What's the matter? I thought you weren't afraid of the dark.
What are you doing down here? What's the matter, Coda? You're not afraid of the dark, are you?
What's the matter, Eric? Afraid of the dark?
I am not afraid of the dark. Not afraid of the dark.
It's a shame then that the episode is so well lit. Most of it takes place during the day, and where there should be darkness and shadows is just kind of flat, boring studio lighting. This wasn't a default look for the show. Many episodes do embrace a proper amount of darkness, so it's odd that this one, with dark in the title, that evokes the idea of being afraid of the dark most directly, that has some of the most dark subject matter in the entire series, fails to look dark. But sometimes a story can transcend these poor creative decisions, and it's an effectively creepy episode. The weird, twisted imagery and the fact that it has a body count has made it one of the most talked about episodes of the series, which makes it hard for me to try and find something new to say. We live in a post-JonTron and Pushing Up Roses world, and I don't want to just point out all the same oddities everyone else has pointed out, like how there's a hand in a jar in the basement that none of the characters seem to notice, or the weird way Andy's sister plays video games, or LOL, their address is 420. That's the marijuana number. It's certainly fun to riff on, but there's enough truly weird and unsettling imagery in this taboo-pushing story that the more awkward elements don't really detract from it. There's room for improvement, sure, but the Tale of the Dark music sets a standard for Are You Afraid of the Dark, suggesting a high level of danger for its characters and leaving a lasting threat of mortality. In its fiction. An important ingredient in what made Are You Afraid of the Dark so memorable and affecting. But that's part of a larger discussion. This was just a sample.